Hello, it's Ali with the Perception Trainers, author of The Perception Diet, and today I want to talk about how to moderate your passions. Okay, so this is a pretty cool subject for me to talk about, and I'm really excited to talk about it because I am a pretty passionate person myself. And this means that, so like when I say I'm a passionate person, I mean like I have lots of interests and lots of things that I like to do and lots of um, I don't know, life that I want to experience. And this is, I think, something that is like really common for a lot of you out there where you have just like a lot of things that you're interested in and a lot of things you want to fill your day with and a lot of things you want to do and a lot of things you want to see and a lot of things you want to experience. But on the and you're highly capable, you're highly functional, you're highly intellectual, and you have a lot of capacity to do a lot of things. However, on the heels of this, you might find that on the one hand, you have all these passions and all these things that you love to do and all these things that you want to be involved in. And then on the other hand, you find that you get overwhelmed often, that you get overdrawn often, and that you always seem to wind up either having to kind of like flake out on everything that you signed up for, or you just get to a point where it's like you get to this kind of like weird breaking point where things that didn't overwhelm you a week ago now all of a sudden completely overwhelm you. And or you get to this place where you just kind of like give up on everything because you just like run out of steam. Like you were super excited about like starting all this stuff 2 weeks ago, and now this week you just kind of can't get yourself to be interested in anything, or it gets boring or something, and you end up not being able to kind of like stick with it. And so what I want to talk about today is what I've discovered in my life. How to moderate your zest for life and your passion and your drive and your wanting to accomplish all these things and wanting to experience all these things and wanting to do all these things with the fact that you're a human and that you need to rest and that you need to recuperate and that you need to be in alignment with yourself, and how to kind of like strike this balance so that you can like do pretty much all the things that you want to do without getting drained and without kind of like losing it. Okay, so just to give you a little background on why I feel like I have some authority to talk about this, it's like I come from a place of being like, yeah, basically stuck in this cycle of taking on absolutely every opportunity presented to me. And this was like stuff that I wanted to do, stuff that I was excited about, stuff that I really thought was going to help me at some point, things that I thought I should do because they would, further my career or make me social or make me all these things that I should be, as a, like in society. Like, so taking on like basically everything presented to me and even kind of like seeking out other things. So I had, like, literally there were points in my life where I had like 2 jobs, I'm working out every day, I'm going to yoga class, I'm doing a teacher training of some sort or school of some sort, I'm taking care of the house, I'm taking care of my food, I have a pretty, I walk everywhere, I have like no real like conveniences, no real things that are like, making my life easier because I just like wanted to like be the most disciplined that I could be. I'm like barely sleeping, and then I take on trying to be social and trying to have a social life and trying to connect with friends and be there for friends, trying to take on clients, and then after a couple of weeks of this, I would crash, right? So I would be like doing all these things. Every single one of my days is like completely jam packed with all things that I wanted to do, and then eventually, like a couple of weeks later, I find myself completely flatlined. Like I just like can't get out of bed. I'm completely overwhelmed. I have to flake out on everything, or I get sick, or something like this happens. And so then I'm like forced to rest or forced to quit everything, and that lasts for like a couple of weeks. And then I basically like ramp everything back up again, take on all these new things, take on all this stuff, get back into the things that I flaked out on, can do it for a couple of weeks, get exhausted, get sick, fall off, have to start again. Okay. So like literally I did this over and over and over again for pretty much my entire teenage life slash young adulthood. Like I basically did this from the time I was in grade 9, I think, to the time I was like 25, 24. So I know what that cycle looks like, all right? And it was really, really hard for me to find a middle ground, okay? And I want to let you know that first and foremost. When you start to take on the tools that I'm about to give you, you're going to resist it, okay? Because it's going to make you feel like you're not doing everything that you can do, and that's going to be like really challenging for your brain the way that it works right now, okay? And that's okay, because what I want you to know that the tools that I'm going to give you are going to feel like you're pulling back, right? And it's going to feel like you're not doing everything that you could be doing, and it's going to feel like you're kind of like wimping out a little bit. But really what you're doing is you're giving yourself an opportunity to have endurance rather than be a sprinter in life, okay? And this is the thing, when you can have endurance in life, that is when you're going to be able to have all the experiences you want to have. When you're a sprinter in life, when you're fast to start and fast to end, you never finish anything, you never get through anything. Everything ends with this abrupt exhaustion or this abrupt, boredom, or this abrupt just like, I can't keep up with all these things that I'm doing, so I'm going to quit everything. You got to understand that, if you look at that pattern, that's not actually enabling you to be the person that you want to be. And I will promise you this, it's not a weakness in you that you can't do everything that you set your mind out to do, okay? It's not a weakness. It's not a fault that you can't fill your days from 6 a.m. to midnight every single day with all of this stuff, and that you can't keep it up forever, okay? Learning how to moderate the opportunities that you take, learning how to moderate your energies in what you do, learning how to moderate activity with rest is going to enable you to be an endurance athlete in this life. And like I say, you cover way more miles as an endurance athlete than you do as a sprinter, okay? So first thing I want you to think about is this. You as a human, woman or man, doesn't really matter, have energy cycles, okay? So if you take a look back at just the last couple of years in your life, the last couple of months in your life, maybe even the last couple of weeks in your life, you're going to notice that there were periods of time where you were on like a high, and you felt like you had all this energy and all this enthusiasm and all this inspiration for all of these things, right? And that's generally when you took on everything that was coming your way, right? That was when all the opportunities were coming and you were inventing them and seeking them out and taking on just like everything that came your way, thinking, this might be important, this might be good, I should do this, I want to do this, this is fun, this is exciting. You take on all the stuff, right? And then you have kind of like a little dip, right? Where things start to feel a little bit heavier. Some of the things are still exciting, some of the things feel a little bit like work, but you can still kind of get yourself to trudge through, right? And then you find yourself in that burnout phase, in that everything's boring phase, in the I can't convince myself to keep going phase, where you just kind of quit everything, or everything feels super overwhelming and all you want to do is hide in your bed and cry, or like I say, you just kind of give up on stuff because it's not, giving you the results that you thought it would, or it's not, it's not as exciting as it was when you first took it on, and you just kind of give up on everything, right? So then you're in kind of a low, and then you might have a little bit of a depression, you might have a little bit of low mood, you have a little bit of just lack of lust for life in general, and like I said, this can be mild to incredibly severe. This can be super hardcore, you go like smack into depression. And then, like I say, and then you start to build yourself up, and things become a little bit brighter and a little bit lighter and a little bit easier over a period of time, and then all of a sudden you want to take on everything again, right? And you'll notice that you have these cycles, and like I say, so some women have this cycle over the course of a month, their menstrual cycle every week is a different week, and they have a high where they're super social, super wanting to take everything on, everything's easy, everything's fun, and then as they get closer to menstruation, things just peter off, and then they disappear, right? Can't do anything, can't find them, don't know what they're doing, and then all of a sudden they come back again, right? For some people, the cycle is longer, and for some people, it can be over the course of a year, right? That they have these cycles. But bottom line is, you have an energy cycle. You're not always at the same place all the time, okay? So The number one thing to know about this cycle is the very worst thing you can do is decide how many things you're going to pack into your life when you're at the top of your energy cycle. Okay? Because the thing is, you're only going to be at the top of that energy cycle for so long before you start to peter down. And again, this is not a flaw in your human design. This is not a flaw in your human nature. This has nothing to do with that, okay? Even if we look at the planets, the cycles of the planets, right? We have Mercury retrograde that happens 3 times a year. And again, this is a period where things like technology stops working, things slow down, right? We are cyclical. Nature is cyclical, and you are a part of nature, which means we are not constant robotic machines, okay? You're not meant to be at the top of that energy cycle all the time. And there's nothing wrong with you when you go down into the lower parts of your cycle, right? Like we would never say there's something wrong with nature when winter happens, right? And all that growth and all that life and all that stuff stops, and there's death and there's rest, right? We would never say, oh, Earth is broken, right? We need to like get Earth on some antidepressants so that it can like get back to like being happy spring, summer Earth all the time, right? Like that's a ridiculous thing to say, but that's exactly what we're doing to ourselves when we say when I'm in the low part of my cycle, there's something wrong with me. Now, the second thing is, I want you to understand that when you learn to moderate yourself, when you learn to moderate your activities, when you learn to moderate, and I'll tell you how to do that as we go along, when you're in these low parts of the cycle, right? And when you allow yourself to be in the low parts of the cycle, when you honor yourself in the low part of the cycle, when you moderate your activity and you give yourself rest and you give yourself time and you give yourself space in the low part of your cycle, all of a sudden the low part of your cycle is not this huge, painful, awful, terrible, depressing place to be. Okay? You're going to find that you're going to be able to be in the low part of your cycle, and I'm going to give you some tools on how to be in the low part of your cycle, and it's going to be this amazing, regenerative, like self-discovery, personal development, personal growth, beautiful reflection time that you're going to actually start to look forward to just as much as the high parts, okay? Because that's what it's for. All right, so here's what you need to understand, right, is that there is literally benefit to all parts of the cycle. And when you can accept each part of the cycle for what it is, you will be able to enjoy your whole cycle instead of feeling like you're in the pits of hell of depression at the low part and on the mountaintop at the high part and like freaking out all the way down. You see what I'm saying? That doesn't have to happen. So, how do you start to moderate your cycle? Number one, you find where you are at that top of the cycle, right? Like you know what it feels like when you're on the top of your energy cycle, when everything is exciting, you want to take on everything, all these opportunities are coming to you, everything is great, right? You know what that feels like. Okay, so you don't want to make your decisions for what you're going to take on at that point, okay? You want to have a little extra energy reserve at that point, okay? At that top of the cycle, for a little bit of meditation, a little bit of rest, a little bit of moderation, okay? You want to make your choices of what you're going to fill your life with when you're in that middle part of the cycle, okay? So you know what it feels like to be at the top, you know what it feels like to be at the bottom, right? So the top, you want to take on everything, the bottom, you want to do friggin' nothing, right? Somewhere in the middle, that is where you decide where your baseline should be of things that you take on, okay? So like I say, when you're at the top of the cycle, just think of it like you're up here, you feel like you are capable of taking on 10 things, so you take on 7, okay? And how you make that choice is this. There are going to always be things you feel like you should do, okay? This should be good for me. I should do this. I should be this kind of person. I should take on this, da-da-da-da-da. So what I want you to do when you're at this top of the cycle and you're trying to decide what things you should take on, I want you to imagine yourself down at the low part of your cycle. I want you to bring yourself into that energy, that feeling of just being kind of constricted, contracted, everything's hard, everything's overwhelming, da-da-da-da-da. And I want you to start to think, okay, what are the things that down here I'm going to think are a priority? Okay? What are the things that are down here that I'm going to be like, yeah, that needs to get done? So for instance, exercise. Up here, you're going to be like, I can take on doing yoga for an hour and a half a day, 6 days a week, no problem, right? That's going to feel good. Down here at the bottom, you're going to be like, yoga sucks. I don't want to exercise ever, right? But You know that exercise is important to your mental health. You know that exercise is important to your physical health. You know that exercise is important to your emotional health. So, what do you feel like you could get yourself to do if you already had a habit built up here at the high part of your cycle that would be just like a moderate thing to do down here? So maybe that's like 20 minutes of yoga. You see what I'm saying? So then when you're at the top of your cycle, you take on 20 minutes of yoga and you start to make that just like a cycle, a thing that you can do, a thing that you know that you can maintain and sustain up at the top of your cycle. So by the time you get down to the bottom of your cycle, 20 minutes of yoga is not really that big of a deal because it's already a part of your routine, but it's not super huge and it's not super overwhelming. And then again, you look at the experiences that people are offering you, the opportunities that people are offering you, and again you think, okay, is this going to be like super overwhelming for me when I'm way down here? Or is this going to be something if I'm doing this now, right, and I make it kind of a habit, am I going to be able to sustain and maintain this, right? And again, I want you to be really honest with yourself. What's going to be way too much down here, right? And then you find that middle ground, okay? And then again, when you're up there at the top, make it a priority that you spend a little bit of time every day or every week slowing down and going inside, okay? Keep like a 10-minute meditation practice, a 10-minute journal practice. You're on a high. Just like, you're going to feel like the momentum is going and you want to let it carry you, and that's fine, but just keep a little bit of a contemplative meditative practice up there, okay? So that so when you're coming down and by the time you get down to this bottom part, again, when you're down here and you've moderated what you've taken on at the high of your cycle, you will be able to continue to do everything that you need to do in your life down here, plus you add in extra contemplative time, extra rest time, extra reflection time, because that's what this period is for. Okay? So when you come down here and you're not already so overwhelmed that you can't even do anything and you have to quit everything, and you are spending extra time in contemplation and meditation and what you need to be doing, you're going to be very clear down here on what is actually a priority for you. Okay? This place is where the priorities become clear. Okay? So, but you have to be in a place where you're not completely overwhelmed, and you have to be in a place where you're spending time in contemplation and in self-reflection in order for that to become clear. So you go through the cycle a couple of times and you spend a lot of time in your contemplative, meditative, introspective, not so social, not so busy time of your cycle. Every time you go through this cycle, what is important for you gets clearer and clearer and clearer. Okay? So really use this bottom part of your cycle, right? This bottom part of your energy cycle to determine what is important for you by keeping your internal practices going through the whole cycle and making them extra important at the bottom. Okay? So that's how you moderate your activity. Think, okay, here's all the things I want to take on when I'm at the top of my cycle. What's going to be important for me at the bottom of my cycle? You take on those things, and then when you get to the bottom of your cycle, be extra introspective. Don't resist it. It's not wrong to be down there. It's not a bad thing. This is an opportunity to really take a look at your life and say, okay, this is important, this isn't. This is important, this isn't. Right? This matters, this doesn't. Even though I can tell myself all these amazing stories when I'm up here at the top of my cycle, I can't convince myself to do shit that isn't important for me down here. Okay? And so again, moderate, 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 and eventually you find yourself at a place where you have a little bit of extra stuff on your plate when you're high, you know exactly how to moderate things down when you're low, and how to be introspective, and you ride this cycle and you enjoy both extremes. Okay? And then the extremes will stop being so extreme. That's another thing. It becomes far more comfortable. So that's how you moderate your passions. Let me know if you have any questions, comments, concerns. I love hearing from you. Leave your comments down below. Like, share, subscribe. Send this video to other people that you know are super high achievers and keep crashing. Find me on Facebook, Ali Perception Trainers. On Instagram, Ali_Perception Trainers. And I will see you in the next video.